listen. Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Get on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
There's no three people I'd rather have on this podcast right now than Sammy, Gordo, and Pat with the Play Tessie podcast. Also, as part of the Baseball Isn't Boring, Who Says No historic crew, they basically have owned the internet when it came to Who Says No. I feel, guys, like since we started doing the fake trades, which is, I don't know, a couple of years, year and a half, whatever it is, other places have tried to do it. Even MLB Network, which they say, submit your fake trade and let's have Dan O'Dowd comment on it and say this realistic, which isn't a terrible idea. I don't mind it. I think it's like podcasting, right? We can all get along. We can all have fake trades. But anyway, Pat, say hello.
How's it going?
Gordo, say hello.
Gentlemen, always a pleasure.
Sammy, say hello.
Hello.
All right, now that we know what everybody sounds like,
We sound alike.
It doesn't matter. It's we'll distinguish
Sammy, do we sound alike?
We'll distinguish yourselves by the trade deadline fake trade acumen. And I appreciate you guys coming on. I'm sitting here with a black eye and 2 broken arms, sort of.
You're like the sad guy from SpongeBob who's like, I broke all my arms and I broke all my legs and
my bones are made of glass.
Yeah, every day I wake up.
Bones are glass.
My daughter was like, "Oh, you're the guy you're Steve Buscemi from Grown Ups with the cast with
Like this.
Yeah." So I fell off a scooter in Denver. Long story short, I fell off a scooter in Denver. That's all people need to know. I did it for the love of the game of baseball. But the trade deadline is just a few days away. So this is a perfect time. This is the meat and potatoes of fake trades. And we're just going to go right to the top. Guys, it would be fair to classify Crochet and Skubal as the top 2 names, realistic names who could be traded, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you wanted to include Luis Robert too, but I don't know. He just hasn't been that good this year.
Pitching wise, it's a no-brainer. Those are
Yeah. Well, all right. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do fake trades. You each have 1 Crochet. You each have 1 Skubal. This spin the wheel of fake trades. Pat, since you have been sitting there silently, congratulations, Dr. Pat.
Thank you.
Dr. P.
Dr. P. Dr. PB. Which one do you want to start with first?
You know what? We'll just go crazy off the bat.
For which player? Which player?
We're going Tarik Skubal.
All right. Is it Tarik or Tarik?
I say Tarik Skubal.
I think it's Tarik.
But I also said Louis Robert, so take that with a grain of salt.
One of the highlights. Tarik Skubal, who has now told me multiple times he learned his changeup from Bobby Dahlbeck, which is excellent. Appreciate that.
Is that the Who Says No? Pat, is that your is that your 1 for 1?
No. All right. What do you got? Tarik Skubal.
So the Tigers have been pretty adamant about not wanting to move Skubal. They'd have to be really overwhelmed. I think there is one farm system that is truly equipped to overwhelm said Detroit Tigers. I think it's Baltimore. So going to Baltimore, I have Tarik Skubal, who I believe has this year and 2 more years of control. Probably going to win the AL Cy Young this year. Lefty, guy's a stud. To the Tigers, I have going number 8 prospect, Cade Povich, number 6 prospect, Dylan Beavers, and number 1 prospect, Jackson Holliday.
Oh, I was waiting for Jackson Holliday.
They have this isn't going to be enough, but now, okay, keep going.
Insane prospect depth. Even the middle of the infield. I mean, Gunner is top 5 MVP candidate right now. Westberg was just an all-star. They have Basallo coming up. They have Rutschman. They have guys everywhere and everywhere. It feels so insane to say, but I do think that there is a world where Justin Holiday is expandable. And if he is an expandable asset, I don't see anybody better to move him for than someone like Tarik Skubal.
You know, he's not only expandable, he's also expendable.
Yes.
He could put on some muscle and expand.
That's true. He could expand. In fact, he probably will expand. Is he 20 yet, or is he still 19?
That's the thing. Like, you threw these other, before I get these guys' take on that trade, you threw these others' names in there. I thought, I am fascinated by, would you do just Jackson Holiday straight up for Tarik Skubal?
Nah, it's not enough.
Well,
I don't think so.
To me, with Skubal, that's the question. Because, Pat, you said it. They have to be overwhelmed. And I really do think there's only one player that could be included in a deal that would actually truly overwhelm them, and it's him.
Yeah, I mean, you got to grossly, quote unquote, overpay with prospects if you want this guy, because they're like, we get so attached to these guys. And I'll just use the Red Sox, for example, Meyer, Anthony, Teal, the big three. It's not out of the question that one or more of them flops. So if you're going to get a proven guy like Skubal, this is the hardest name of all time to pronounce, by the way. Tarik Skubal. If you're going to get someone like him, you gotta blow them away. They gotta be shocked by the offer. And
can I tell you, for Baltimore's perspective, and excellent job, Pat, I think it's a good one, that they know that they need that type of pitcher, not only for this year, but because Corbin Burns can walk. So you know that you need that type of pitcher going forward. And if you don't get it now, you're going to have to get it somehow in the offseason. So why not get it now? So, yeah.
Give yourself 1 year of having both overlapping, just because Corbin Burns. I guess it's this foregone conclusion that he's walking. At least that's how Ken Rosenthal talks. So if you're going to get a guy and you're not going to want to pay top dollar, like if Corbin Burns walks and you're going to pay a guy, obviously you're going to pay Corbin Burns. So they're not going to pay like Max Fried. So if you're going to trade for a guy, you might as well do it now. Have that run.
I like that trade, Pat. That was a good one. I was nervous at first. I'm like, this isn't going to be enough.
That was so strategic to really underwhelm up until the Jackson Holiday thing.
Who says no to that? Like, because I could spoil mine. Like, mine was very similar. I looked at all the teams and I was trying to think, how can I get a Dodgers trade to work for Skubal? And I really couldn't even do it.
Oh, I can.
All right. Let's go. Keep going. Let's keep the momentum going, Gordo. Give me your Skubal trade.
My Skubal trade was really similar. I said it was going to be Tarik Skubal, and Tyler Holton, the lefty reliever that Detroit has, who's been very good to Baltimore for Jackson Holiday and Heston Kjerstad.
Ooh.
So it's similar, because I truly don't think that there's a way for a team that's in a playoff hunt to overwhelm the Tigers. Because, like, if you're in a playoff hunt, you're not going to give away. I'm trying to think of a good example here. Like, we'll just stick with Baltimore. Like, obviously, they're not giving up Gunnar Henderson or Adley Rutschman in this deal. You're trying to get better. So what team is capable of overwhelming Detroit with prospects? It really feels like it's only Baltimore. You look at all these top prospects, and it feels like it's going to take multiple. And so many of these teams have really good ones. But, like, you look at the Red Sox. Would the Red Sox part with two of the big three? It's who says no. I think the Red Sox say no.
Well, yeah. And I think that it's as much as you look at, let's say, the Red Sox top prospects, there isn't as much certainty with those top prospects as the top prospects of the Orioles. Like, I feel that way. And maybe I'm wrong. You know, like we're so quick to say Jackson Holiday is going to be the be all end all, right? But he went 1 for 37. Whatever it was. And we can't say that. I mean, I think he'll be good. Everyone thinks he'll be good, but we don't know that. It's the same thing when it comes to Marcelo Meyer. Like, we don't know.
Yohan Moncada was the most can't miss prospect in the league when he was traded, and he's been not even league average for the White Sox. So that's what I was saying earlier. You got to, like, blow these guys away. Like, how could we decline this kind of trade?
But that's honestly why I feel like Detroit might even say no to Jackson Holiday and a couple of back of the top 10 prospects, because if Jackson Holiday flops, now you've traded a potential Cy Young Award winning pitcher here. And like, yeah, you crush yourself. You set yourself back.
I mean, to be fair, I think the Tigers say no to all of our trades. I just don't think they're going to trade Tarik Skubal. But if they do, it would be like one of the two you mentioned. I've yet to reveal mine, but yeah, I think that's the blueprint.
All right.
Well, can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question? Is it why shouldn't they trade Skubal? Detroit is not going to be a super contender in the next. Obviously, they're not this year. In the next 2 years, are they really going to be a legitimate World Series contender? Like, this is the exact situation, maybe a little bit different, but it's really similar to the Nationals and Soto just a couple of years ago. Look how great that turned out.
But look at Texas; they won 68 games and they won the World Series next year.
Yeah,
you never know;
and
change a lot.
And we all know one of the hardest things to get is a guy like Skubal.
But are they going to spend a shit ton of money?
The what?
Like, how is Detroit going to get considerably better than they are right now by next year? Because Texas did that, Sammy. You're right, but they spent a crap ton of money to do it.
You know how they are? They're gonna do like they're gonna pull a Kansas City. There you go. It happens. It happens.
Good
happen.
Trades, nothing crazy. A bunch of very good players, nobody great. Something like that.
It happens. All right.
Every year they don't trade them; they drop the price.
Sammy, give me your Skubal. I don't know.
All right.
And that's not code. Go ahead.
Oh my god!
All right, so I feel like I felt like I have been too cautious with my trades lately. So I tried to do. This is crazy. This reminds me of the first time I came on the show when I prefaced it with "This is crazy." So, when you have your like a friend,
make up the T-shirts. This is crazy. ...
So you have a friend or a family member and they're like really down bad and you feel for them, and then they get a great job or like they find a great partner and they start dating and you're like really happy for them. This is not that. This is the complete opposite. This is your rich friend getting even richer. I'm sending Tarik Skubal to the Dodgers, which is gross, but that's what I'm doing. And here's what the Tigers are getting: Gavin Stone, Bobby Miller, the Dodgers' top two prospects, Dalton Rushing, Josue DePaula, and then their number 5 prospect, Kyle Hurt, as well as the 10th ranked prospect, Kendall George. And you might be thinking, there's no way the Tigers would do that. That's a huge underpay. Here's the kicker. The Dodgers are also taking the entirety of Javi Baez's disgusting contract, which has $73 million remaining over the next 3 years. So the Tigers get this big haul. Stone already looks great in Major League Baseball. Miller's been up and down, but the stuff is crazy if you see him pitch. Top 2 prospects, like I said, those guys are 47th and 62nd overall in the MLB Top 100. They're also getting a 5th prospect, like I said, and a 10th prospect. So they're getting a lot, and they're also subtracting Javi Baez's contract. So they have freedom now. They can spend money, like you were saying, Gordo, and they have a much refreshed prospect pool and a Major League ready starting pitcher in Stone.
Wow. That is wow.
Yeah.
This reminds me of, we did a Who Says No over, I believe it was the offseason. It was the Dylan Cease Who Says No. And I had the Cubs giving up everything they had to get Dylan Cease and Eloy Jimenez. This is what that feels like to me. The Dodgers, I don't think they'd have or at least in Keith Law's top 60 that he dropped today, they wouldn't have any top 60 prospects after this. Plus, they'd be giving away 2 established pitchers. I know Bobby Miller has struggled, but
they would have a terrible farm system.
They would have nothing left.
They'd be losing their best young starter other than Yamamoto. So
it's true. Gavin Stone's already really good.
That's what I'm saying. That's why,
I mean,
I'm looking at it and thinking like, there's no way these guys don't have enough prospects. Got to take from the Major League team, but they're a contender. How do you do both? I figured Stone, you could get rid of him and they still have Sheehan. So Grove too.
What if you swapped those 2?
I don't think it works. Sheehan's hurt right now and he wasn't pitching well.
I think the Dodgers say no.
Dustin May at some point.
And Gonsolin. Is Gonsolin back yet?
No.
also
Yeah.
hurt. I went through they have a ton of injuries, the Dodgers.
Dude, that's crazy.
But no, Sammy, I think because me and Gordo were saying how Baltimore really is the only farm system that can really overwhelm the Tigers into a Skubal trade. I think the only way to overcome that is if you put proven major league talent into that to supplement for the lack of like star power and prospects. I don't know. I think the Dodgers say no, but I mean, Stone's good. Like the Tigers would at least have to think about it, but I don't think the Dodgers do it. But I like the premise of it.
Tigers would have to do it.
Freeing the Tigers of the shackles of Javi Baez.
True. Yeah.
Tigers would be insane to say no to getting off Baez and getting that influx of talent in their system. But that like to go back to something I said before about Baltimore being the only team that I felt like could overwhelm them. Technically speaking, like everyone in theory could overwhelm them. If any team put their top 10 prospects on the table, like all of them, yeah, you're probably getting Skubal out of it. So that might be like kind of it's not the top 10. Like they would still have some prospects, but that's kind of like as close as you could realistically get to literally putting everything you have on the table.
Gordo, listen to this. Opening day 2025. Your rotation looks like Ohtani, Skubal, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Sheehan. Oh my God. That is crazy. So I too agree with you. Dodgers probably don't do this. However, they would have to think long and hard about it before rejecting.
I think the one thing, and this is going to probably dovetail to the Crochet talk, but the Dodgers are the team that they are going to get a top high-end starting pitcher, or at least they're going to try really hard. This is their priority. They absolutely view it as we have to, and I think the way they look at it is that not only do they have injuries to the starting rotation, but they've also learned the lesson from playoffs in years past, which is they understand how this works. You get to the postseason, whether you're winning 111 games or 84. It's a big part of it is, do you have the stud pitchers to carry you through? Do you have the Evaldis, the Montgomerys, the whoever's? Do you have the Merrill Kellys? Do you have the Zach Gallons? Do you have these guys who can help carry you? And I think that's the Dodgers mindset right now. That's what, when I was out in LA talking to Dodgers people, I think that's what their priority was. I think that a lot of the scuttlebutt throughout the internet and rumors and everything else, that only cements that way of thinking. I think they are going to get, or at least really, really try hard to get one of these guys. My initial take is that's overboard, because you're just gutting it. I mean, so, but you know what? You got to get uncomfortable, and they don't have the farm system of the Orioles, but they don't have a bad farm system. You can probably figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Dodgers will probably be the team that trades for Flaherty because he's on an expiring deal. They don't need him in 2025, but they could use him in 2024. He makes sense. So, but in a world where they trade for Skubal, pretty interesting.
Flaherty's an interesting one for them. I feel like he's like, I mean, he's a top frontline guy. I feel like that's the lowest tier guy that they should allow themselves to come away with after this. Like anything below Flaherty would probably be a failure.
Pretty
Evaldi, maybe.
Pretty mid system.
Well,
yeah.
But that's the thing, is that Texas is the biggest wild card, I think, in this trade deadline. And right now, because I've been really, really monitoring them. When I was down in Dallas, the All-Star game, listening to people down there, it was funny because you look at the standings and you're like, oh, they've dug themselves too big a hole, but they were playing so well leading up to that. Then you're watching how they come out of the All-Star break, and all of a sudden they're winning. They're not that far off. But because if they were sellers, you're looking at like Evaldi, you're looking at Robertson, you're looking at like a few different guys. But right now, I don't think they're sellers. Like today I don't think, especially going off of, the mindset we've sort of learned Chris Young has from last year. I mean, they have enough, and I don't blame them. I mean, they legit have enough to win. They do.
They're a game under right now, playing Toronto starting tomorrow.
I don't care. But where are they in the division right now?
I agree with you, Rob. I'm honestly, I'm almost completely given up on the Rangers as sellers. I just don't think it's going to happen. The only hope in terms of selling that you could have there is when they get healthy in the rotation, there's going to be an excess of starting pitchers there. Like, count it out. I'm just going to read off their depth chart here. Evaldi, John Gray, Andrew Heaney, Michael Lorenzen, Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, Tyler Mahle. So with these guys getting healthy and like they could trade a guy just to clear up a spot there.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting?
Like a buy sell type deal.
You know what's interesting is that somebody there told me, he's like, the way DeGrom, and I'm not saying DeGrom's going to be one of those starting pitchers, but he said the way that DeGrom is throwing right now, like you could legit put him in for 2 innings and he would dominate. He's throwing like 99 in these bullpen sessions. So, yeah. All right. I like those. All good. All good. Let's go to Crochet. Pat, you ready?
Yeah. Oh, I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
So I tried to go beyond, like the two, one that are staring me in the eye would be the Dodgers and the Orioles. Tried to go outside of that. I thought, what team, or should I say what GM, would already have a really good starting rotation who could possibly want another ace to the staff? And I thought of the Tigers when they traded for David Price. I have Dave Dombrowski trading for Garrett Crochet.
Ooh!
I thought you were going to go a different direction with that.
To the White Sox, I have Phillies' number 2 prospect, Aiden Miller, who's number 27 in the MLB, according to MLB.com. Mick Abel, their number 5 prospect, who's
former first round pick.
90s.
Yeah,
92, I think, in the majors. And then, honestly, this guy was a throw-in just because of his name and as an ode to this lovely program. Also going back to Chicago is Alex McFarland.
Hey,
Farland.
There you go. You got anyone named
Aiden
Wasabi?
Miller.
Can you find a name? Can you find with the last name Wasabi?
Ooh.
Johnny Wasabi.
I'll get on it.
Let's throw Johnny Wasabi in every trade.
Johnny Wasabi.
Johnny Wasabi.
Johnny Wasabi is let it be said, let it be done. The player to be named later in any trade now is Johnny Wasabi.
Johnny Wasabi.
Deal.
All right.
I
love like, think about that though. Holy mackerel. Like, holy mackerel. Look at that starting rotation. It's Wheeler, it's Suarez,
Nola,
Crochet.
Pat, run the trade back for me. Run it. Say it again.
Aiden Miller, number 2 prospect, Mick Abel, number 5, and then Alex McFarland for Crochet. And that's contingent with what has been floated about today. Crochet supposedly will not pitch in the postseason without an extension, doesn't want to go to the bullpen. So, and Mick Abel's like a fringe top 100 guy at this point. Like, he's not having a good year. He's probably going to be off the list. Aiden Miller's a big get, but I think if they're going to have to trade and extend him, and Philly, believe me, has shown no buyer's remorse with anybody. They'll pay anybody they want. So that was kind of the thought here. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I like the idea of him to the Phillies. Well, I hate the idea of him to the Phillies, but I think it's interesting to think about. They'd be amazing. I think it's a little light. I think if you switched Mick Abel with like Painter or a really, really top prospect, just because Garrett Crochet is a 25-year-old ace caliber pitcher, lefty, big boy. So I think he's going to cost closer to Skubal than we think, if that makes sense. Like, I think he's going to be like the trade I have. I'm setting a boatload of prospects for him. So I think you're on the right track. I'd switch Mick Abel with a better prospect. And then I think it's right there.
That's where I'm at too with it, Pat, because I think we all we get a little bit thrown off. And obviously, like with the whole Crochet wants to start the rest of the year and then not start in the postseason, kind of changes my thinking a little bit, because anytime I'd thought about like the context of Crochet to the Red Sox, I think, well, I don't want to give up a lot for a guy who is going to have to potentially be in the bullpen to finish out the year. But you got to think about it also, like if you traded for him in the offseason, you're trading for 2 full years of Crochet. So what would 2 full years of an ace cost? That's basically what did the Red Sox trade for Chris Sale? It
Sure,
was
yeah.
two top. Was Kopech a top 20 prospect in baseball at the time of that trade?
No, I feel like he was in the 30 to like 45 range at the time. I
Okay,
think.
so basically it's like a elite guy, a top 50 guy to add to that, and whatever. I mean, they Basabe, whatever, like he was like probably 12th, didn't become anything. So I do think you have to add a little more, but I really think it's interesting. I like that you targeted the Phillies, because when I started thinking of Crochet trades, like the reason the Dodgers come to mind as such an obvious partner is because they're 7.5 up on the Padres for that division. To get a guy like Crochet, I feel like you have to almost be prepared to weather that storm, in that like you're going to skip some starts. You're going to have a couple of starts for him where he only goes a couple of innings, because you're going to try to keep those innings down. And like a team, like the reason I don't love the fit for Crochet to Baltimore is Baltimore's up 2 on the Yankees. So that's not a team that can really afford to be skipping starts and keep going for 2 innings. Like the Phillies are 9 games up. So the fit actually makes a lot of sense. Like if Dombrowski wants to get another ace pitcher, like that makes a lot of sense. They can afford to do that.
Let me ask you this, guys, before we go on. Simple question. You have your choice of Crochet or Skubal.
Skubal. Easy.
Skubal. Easy.
Skubal.
Okay. All right. Just check.
Crochet's great, but he's never done this. He's blowing by his innings total, and I don't know. I like him a lot. It's not Skubal by.
It's fear.
Like I pick Skubal easily, but the gap isn't that big. Like I think Crochet has just as good of a ceiling, but like Gordo said, more concerns with him.
Yeah,
now
more
watch
of a guarantee in Skubal.
Yeah, now watch Skubal again.
Crochet,
he's on track to throw more innings this year than he ever has in the majors, college. Like this is going to be a career high. Skubal at least has a way better track record, and he's kind of been there, done that. So I think it's a comfort thing and an equal kind of ceiling.
Yeah.
All right. Good one, Pat. Excellent job. Gordo, give me your Crochet.
So I tried to get a little wild with this one. I didn't want to send him to the Dodgers. I decided to get a little bit crazy here and expand this deal a little bit. You look at teams like do you guys remember in the offseason when there were those rumblings that the Mariners might try to get Dylan Cease, and we all wondered like what the hell is that about?
Yeah.
So the Mariners need a bat. So what okay, let's talk here. Garrett Crochet, Luis Robert, and Eric Fetty all going to the Mariners for Bryce Miller, Brian Wu. So 2 potential frontline guys with more control going back to the White Sox. And then the Mariners are going to send Michael Arroyo, who is Keith Law's number 45 overall prospect, Cole Young, who is having somewhat of a down year, was kind of like a top 20-ish overall prospect at the start of the year. Now he's like around 50-ish. And then Matt Brash, who's out for the year with Tommy John, but obviously like when he's out there, nasty stuff out of the bullpen.
My head just exploded.
Okay, can you say?
Yeah, let's break it down.
Okay.
I'll say it all again, and then I'll break it down piece by piece here. So it's Garrett Crochet, Luis Robert, and Eric Fetty, all going to the Mariners. Bryce Miller, Ryan Wu, Michael Arroyo, Cole Young, and Matt Brash, all going back to the White Sox. So the Mariners grab another elite ace in Crochet to pair with 2 like Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, like top of the top ace guys. They would have 3 aces. You talk about having like a 3-headed monster that can carry you through a postseason. That's it. Eric Fetty comes to because you're giving up Bryce Miller and Brian Wu here, so you want a full rotation of studs. Eric Fetty has a sub-3 ERA. That's a really good pitcher. Cost controlled ish. He's like $7.5 million for the next 2 years. So really good guy there to fill out the back of your rotation. From the White Sox perspective, you go from Garrett Crochet, who's 2.5 years, and Eric Fetty, who's 1.5 years, to Bryce Miller and Brian Wu, who basically both have the entirety of their rookie deals to go. So for the White Sox, you pair those 2 with Drew Thorpe and Noah Schultz, and oh my God, like you could be talking about them having the next Mariners-like rotation. Meanwhile, Seattle, they need a bat. We see their offense. It totally sucks. I don't know if Luis Robert can fix that on his own. I don't think he can fix that on on his own, but it's a start. That's the impact outfield bat specifically. Their outfield is Who's the guy from the Nationals that they claimed that was that super top prospect and never ended up being any good?
Robles.
Yes, they've got Victor Robles playing games in their outfield. It's
batting second.
Yeah, so
their offense is
talk about a team that needs outfield, but it's also the Mariners, because I have them trading 2 prospects here. This is one of the deepest farm systems in baseball. Make 6 of the top 100 guys in the league right now, and a lot of them play the same position. So makes a lot of sense. I didn't even trade their top 2 shortstop prospects in this deal. So, and Matt Brash, really good pitcher, but he's hurt, not going to help you this year.
You know, you've channeled your inner Jerry Dipoto. I like that.
I tried to get psychotic with it.
That was crazy. I think that was crazier than my Skubal to the Dodgers one. That was okay. Here's my concern. My concern is Brian Wu, and not because of the talent. The talent's clearly there. I think he might even be better than Bryce Miller at the end of the day. But the problem is he's young and already has a lot of injury concerns. So I think that might hold it up. But if the White Sox were cool taking that risk, I can't believe I'm saying this. This actually makes sense. It makes sense. The White Sox are getting more control over their pitchers. Probably I think that Wu and Miller, if they're both healthy, is better than Fetty and Crochet, because those 2 guys are nasty and they're very young. They're going to keep getting better. But then Lou Bob, great fit in Seattle. Yeah, man, this kind of works. Fetty fills the gap. Yeah, I can't believe this. This actually makes this sounds like this is so crazy. This is too much, but it makes sense. Like I get the logic behind it.
The one holdup is Seattle extending Crochet, because that threw a wrench into it when I read that today.
I think they've been spending more money than usual. Like they gave J-Rod that big extension. We'll see.
Robbie Ray before that.
Yeah.
What even does a Garrett Crochet extension look like?
Who knows?
Oh, it's gonna be.
Ooh,
yeah,
trade just went down.
Oops.
Diamondbacks getting
AJ Puck. No.
What?
Wanted the
AJ
Red Sox to get him, so then Zach and AJ Puck would have matching beards.
But Gordo, my thought with that, I'm actually in the same boat as Sammy. I think Brian Wu is way too young to have his kind of laundry list of injuries. I wonder if Chicago would almost want like an Emerson Hancock more. Someone who's got a little bit more control, maybe not as high of a ceiling as Brian Wu, but a lot less injury risk. And I mean, it does not matter who you have as your number 4 in that rotation when you're trotting out Bryce Miller, Drew Thorpe, Schultz, Hancock. Like, they're loaded.
Pat, question
I don't know if
I've got a question for you then.
Okay.
If obviously Red Sox podcast here, so we're Red Sox people. If you had a choice,
It's not a Red Sox podcast.
no, we're the Play Tessie guys. We do the Red Sox podcast.
No, I know this. Yeah, it's
This is not a Red Sox podcast.
Yes, thank you.
But Pat, as a Red Sox guy, if the Mariners said you could pick one for free, Emerson Hancock or Brian Wu, tell me you're picking Brian Wu.
That's the thing. In a vacuum, yeah, Wu. But if I'm giving up my superstar center fielder, my ace, I want some guaranteed return. And I think Hancock provides that, maybe not as high of a ceiling, but in terms of kind of clear mind, okay, I know what I'm getting here. I think Hancock's more of that than Wu is right now.
It's interesting. I know that Brian Wu has had his injuries. He's had a lot of them he's basically been a big league pitcher for about a calendar year. But we talk about Skubal as a guy who you feel better about making it the distance than Crochet. But he had a lot of these issues, these injury issues when he first came up too. Like,
yeah.
And now he's been healthy for, at least a year without really much setback. But like all it takes is about a year of a guy putting it together and staying healthy for him to kind of shake that narrative of he's injury prone. And Brian Wu, when he's been out there, is like, holy shit, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like Sammy said, a 2.54.
Like Sammy said, though, like the fit, as crazy as it is, the fit makes sense. Like all around, it makes sense. Whether or not something of that magnitude can go down in the next, 5 days, I don't know. but I like it for both ways. It's crazy.
You know what teams, and these are all good, great. What teams that there's some really interesting teams that have aggressive GMs, which is awesome that they're in it. And that we haven't mentioned today, but obviously we'll be mentioning. You look at teams like Atlanta, who are just clinging, right? I was on an Atlanta radio station the other day, and they're like, you would think they were in last place. And I keep saying to them, it's okay. You still have a really talented team, and you have a GM who's going to probably do something. You have the Mets sitting there, and the idea of, like that, Scherzer revealing that they're only going to go for 2026. Does anyone think that Steve Cohen, if they're in it, isn't going to do something? No.
Which leads me to my who says no.
Yeah, perfect. All right.
Let's hear it. Hit it.
Let's go. I mean, I read the show notes. That's why I did it. Go ahead.
All right. I gave it away. I'm sending Garrett Crochet to the New York Mets, not the Yankees.
Yes.
Gotcha. To the Mets, not the Yankees. And the Mets are getting a haul of prospects. The White Sox are getting a haul of prospects. The problem is the Mets don't have a ton of top flight prospects. So here's what I did. I got them getting Jet Williams, 30th in the top 100, Ryan Clifford, 70th, Luis Angel Acuna, 91st, Brandon Sproat, 95th, and then I have Nolan McLean, who's the 18th ranked prospect in the system. He's a two-way player. Just thought that was interesting. And Sean Reed Foley. And the reason I added Sean Reed Foley, Bradford, we talked about this, that guys who used to have that high prospect ranking acumen, they still have value even if they no longer.
This is the reason why guys in the NFL keep getting chances, because they come out of high school and they're 5-star recruits and they don't do much in college, but still they're on the radar for being 5-star recruits. It's the same thing in baseball. If you're in oh my goodness, Nestor Cortez was on our podcast. He was great talking about this, because here's a 37th round pick or something. You know how many more chances you get as a first or second rounder compared to you get the opposite of good chances when you're a 37th round. You have every excuse not to give that guy a chance. And these other guys, anyway, I'm going on a tirade or rant or whatever, but it's true. My point is what you're saying is that if you're a high draft pick, you're always going to have value even when you don't produce.
I'm glad you agree. And Sean Reed Foley, a few years ago, he was a top 100 prospect. Didn't really pan out. He bounced around. I think he was started with the Blue Jays. Then he went to the Twins, I think, and now he's with them, the Mets, and he's pitching all right. And he's only 28. It's not like he's 35 years old. So I'll go over the trade again. Garrett Crochet to the Mets, just him. White Sox are getting Jet Williams, Ryan Clifford, Acuna, Sproat, McLean, and Sean Reed Foley. That is Ronald Acuna's brother, Luis Angel.
God, that's I feel like the Mets are in a similar position with their prospects to where the Red Sox are, in that are they really going to, I don't want to say punt, because it's not punting if you're getting good value for it, but are they really going to pull the plug on this operation that they've kind of been developing for the last calendar year with trying to get all these prospects up, get the money off the books? Like they won't have anything else left coming if they trade all that for Crochet.
They have Gilbert. I didn't trade
Drew
Gilbert. I'm going to leave them with.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, they have one good top prospect. I mean, that's their number 2 prospect. He's in the top 100. That's a good player. I had him in there initially, then I thought it was a little bit much. So, I mean, he's 38 in the top 100. So they still have a guy in the top 40.
Is he the one who's having a bad? Because remember, those rankings are like from the off season. So I'm looking at Keith Laws because he just released his today, and he only released his top 60, but he had Jet Williams at 37 and Brandon Sproat, who I'm pretty sure had an awesome year. I think I was looking at him recently, but he's at 49, and that's all they've got in the top 60. Yeah. Is Clifford? What's Clifford hit? Is he in the? What's he?
By the way, Nolan McLean, I'm glad you included him. Friend of the program. He's been on the podcast.
Yeah, he's cool. Two-way guy. Clifford's having a
Ooh.
decent season, good OPS wise. Acuna and Gilbert haven't been great, so I
Oh, it's
figured
Gilbert.
Gilbert's
It's Gilbert.
Gilbert's the higher ranked of the two. So I figured, all right, keep that guy. Put in Acuna. Acuna might have a little Ronald Acuna rub where the name gets him a little bit more
Big time.
value, but still, it's still a
So
massive haul.
Acuna, let me give you some context with Acuna, because when I was visiting with that team, Syracuse, talking to the manager, Dick Scott, and he had a great point about Acuna. He said, yeah, he obviously has high expectations, and this year got off to a slow start. But as he points out, this is a guy who had literally never in his life played in cold weather, ever, ever. And it's stuff like that which I buy into.
Yeah, okay. I mean we're all from New England. We've done those baseball tryouts in February where you got to hit a ball and your hands are just in so much pain afterwards. So, yeah, no, I buy that too. He also is 22 years old, so young guy. But yeah, haul of prospects, a lot of very good prospects. Only one top prospect, but a bunch of top 100 guys, plus Sean Reed-Foley, who's having a good season, and McLean for Garrett Crochet to the Mets.
I think I've processed it. I think because initially it sounds like a ton, but you're right. You're right onto something, because there's no true blue chip centerpiece there. There's no top 10 overall prospect. There's no Yoan Moncada going for Chris Sale there. So you have to include a lot more. So I think if the White Sox were going to deal with the Mets, it actually might take that. I just don't know if the Mets are going to be ready to pull the plug there on what they're doing. I think they're going to see this through. I think they're going to go for it with the homegrown guys.
I think this would have to be like in contingency with a lot more if the Mets pull a trade like this. If like this to me signifies that what they told Scherzer wasn't a lie. So like this winter, like they're going to go get Juan Soto. Like they're going to spend that money. They're going to get Juan Soto. So then now you have Nimmo, Soto, Lindor, a two-headed monster in the rotation when Senga's healthy. Senga and Crochet. So you go out and fill the back end, much like they did this year. That's worked really well. Shamanaya, Luis Severino, like those types. So I think this is very much geared toward next year, not so much this year. Yeah. But like Gordo said, there's no real blue chip there. It's just a lot of upside to a bunch of different guys. So I think that's what it would take to get Crochet for a team that might not have, the blue chip, the top 15, top 20 guy. I kind of like it.
Yeah. Let's keep in mind too, if the Mets are really going to go for it, they are going to have to get another starting pitcher, like a playoff caliber starting pitcher, I think. And yeah, sure, Senga's coming back, but all right, Severino, who else? Give me their playoff rotation.
Butto. They got Butto, Quintana.
Yeah, Quintana probably gets the nod.
Right, but there you go.
Well, yeah, no, that's the problem. And don't even get me started on their bullpen. I mean,
who do they have in their bullpen before Diaz?
Ottavino.
They have another, Ottavino. There's a guy they have a, I think it's a lefty. Well, but still.
They traded for what's his face from the Rays, Maton. They traded for Maton.
Oh yeah.
They had that guy who was having, I forget his name, but he was having a crazy good year. He's on the injured list now. That might be who you're thinking of, Sammy. I forget.
So excellent job across the board. I always want to give like this context, because like we said, we had a trade come through just now as we're recording this. And I want to give this context about like how people get so twisted when it comes to the deadline. What we're talking about is the high end guys. You have to give up a lot to get the high end guys, but to help teams get to the finish line, to help teams get impactful players, you don't have to give up a lot. And this AJ Puck thing. So the guys that they gave up are their number 14 and number 30 overall prospects, the Diamondbacks.
That's kind of a
why wouldn't you of course you do that trade. Of course. You have a guy who can legitimately help you win major league games.
And not to mention, Rob, I know the experiment failed this year with him as a starter, but I don't know if I'd give up on that. Like, obviously, to finish this year, he's a lights out reliever, but he's got like 5 good pitches. AJ Puck, you could try it again next year. Like he in spring training this year, look at his starter numbers from spring training. I know it's spring training, but those numbers were crazy. I was so convinced he was going to be a good starting pitcher this year.
It's also a crazy return on a guy who's been so good out of the bullpen. He's cost control through 26.
I
just got
I love
2.5
trade.
seasons for nothing.
Yeah, I loved that trade. I love the at the time with JJ Bleday, that was a deal, right?
Yep.
And Bleday has been actually turned out to be pretty good, but it comes back to like a lot of those deals that Miami was making. Like, hey, you know what? It's okay. You did the Zach Gallen, Jazz Chisholm. Now Jazz Chisholm's like Q rating isn't great right now, but whatever. Still, you traded something to get something. But I want this Marlin stuff going back to Luis Arise, that deal. Peter Bendix, you better know what you're doing. Because you're you better know what you better have impactful guys coming back at some point. Because you can't keep doing this. Well, we think this guy is going to do this. We think that guy is going to. To your point, Pat, AJ Puck is a guy who can help you win games. So, yeah, this is my rant.
I think another thing, too, is I'm now really curious to see what the return on Tanner Scott's going to be.
Oh.
Because the 2 trades that Peter Bendix has made, the returns have been underwhelming, is putting it lightly.
And Scott's an expiring contract, too. I don't think he's not going to bring back as much as people think. But I think this is kind of and this is not like a hard and fast rule, but these smaller market teams, or these lower budget teams, I should say, like the White Sox in this trade that I just presented, I feel like they go for the quantity over quality sometimes. Like the A's did that with both the Olsen and Chapman trades. And there was another trade that they did recently where everyone was kind of like, oh, they got a bunch of good but not great prospects. I feel like that's just the playbook with those teams, which is why I felt comfortable putting together this Mets White Sox trade where the White Sox are getting, one very good prospect in Jet Williams and then a handful of good but not great ones. So anyway, yeah,
Sean Murphy. That's the other one, right? Sean Murphy.
That was the other one. Yeah, they traded a bunch of good players all to the Braves and where'd Chapman go? Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Humor me here. You guys ready for this? For AJ Puck's spring training numbers from this year? In 13 2/3 innings, he struck out. What can I see? Oh yeah, in 13 2/3 innings, he struck out 23.
You got to have a good spring training pitcher.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Why don't you think we move Bobby Dahlbeck? You need a spring training hitter who hits 13 home runs. It's valuable asset.
Everyone knows spring training stats are the most important stats. Fact.
Yep.
Diamondbacks are playing chess, not checkers.
Yeah. There was a couple quotes where I've leaned on from GMs from last deadline, which I just love, which I'm like the mindset of it. I keep referencing when Dayton Moore came on, talking about Chris Young getting all his guys in a room and saying, can we win the World Series? And if we think that, we're going to have to trade these prospects on the board. Like, I love that. I love Mike Hazen saying to me, like, hey, good job, Mike Hazen. It's like, no, I did a shitty job because we had to play a bullpen game in the World Series. Like, I want to make sure that we aren't in that position again. And he said, I made a vow to myself last spring training, that if we're in it, I'm going to do everything I can to help the team. And I love that mindset. Like, I love and guys, as Red Sox podcast, you see this. And I think that we're slowly starting to see the mindset of Breslow a little bit, which is, I do think there is that mindset of understanding you grind and you grind and you grind to get to a position. You've earned that right to get the pat on the back.
Right.
So
I agree. I have a question. How did these, like, on a human level, these GMs, what is their mindset from what you've heard from speaking to them? What's their mindset as the deadline approaches? Because I have to imagine it's got to be an unreal level of stress that we can't even understand.
Well, it depends, right? It depends where you are. I mean,
Breslow. Let's go with Breslow. New guy in Boston. A lot of pressure, right?
Well, I think it comes back to, you really have to be convicted and confident in knowing the guys that you're trading, right? There's two things. You have to know the guys that you're trading, and you better read that room in the clubhouse. You better read that room. And so those are the two biggest things. Dombrowski, we've said this a bunch of times. He's really, really good at identifying the guys that aren't going to hurt you.
Yeah.
You know, sure, you're the guy might make the major leagues, but is he going to really hurt you? No. And then also just understanding like what the mindset of the clubhouse is. So to answer your question, when Peter Bendix trades Luis Arise, in early May, you it's not a cliche. You've given up. You've given up.
Yeah, that was a punt. That was a clear punt.
Right. But at the same time, conversely, AJ Preller, you make that deal, look at what the Padres are obviously in it. I'm not saying Luis Arise has carried them, but he's done really well. And it also defines how they view that team. Because heading into the year, this wasn't the Padres of 2023. It was the Padres of 2024. You have traded Juan Soto. But you say, hey, you know what? Just because we trade that guy doesn't mean we're not going for it. You have to define what your team is. And as soon as teams, and that's when I was talking about the Red Sox, trading earlier than later, you have to define, even if it's a small trade. What do you think that the Diamondbacks at Mike Hayes and the Diamondbacks feel right now? They feel pretty good about things.
Yeah, you just got another arm.
But you got an arm that is impactful, and nobody in that clubhouse cares about the 14th and 30th ranked guys in the system.
Yeah. That's why I don't like the adding and subtracting concept. Because if you're subtracting someone, you're going to be upsetting the clubhouse. So that's a whole different topic.
I mean, look at how they got Seawald. That's exactly what happened in Seattle. That was like detrimental to the clubhouse. Like you very much have to pick a lane, I feel like.
Well, the ultimate example of that was Josh Hader with the Brewers.
Yeah.
And don't think, Milwaukee trades Josh Hader. They're in it. They're in the playoffs, I think, and they fall apart. And everybody knew like that was the wrong move. And I think that David Stearns is a smart guy. I think that I don't know him really at all, but my guess is that he wouldn't do that deal. He wouldn't do that type of deal again. These guys learned their lessons, right? And I think Peter Bendix is new on the job down there. There's going to be a lot of lessons learned. You think you know what's going on. You think you know how to construct a team. Well, there's a lot difference between helping construct a team in Tampa than there is a lot of other places. There's my rant. I don't know. All right. Maybe it's the concussion talking. Who knows? Who knows? But guys, excellent job. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.